All right, we have our, well, I shouldn't say our, but we have one of Shades Valley's International Baccalaureate High School's newest students. We have a freshman by the name of Amrita Aurora, and she's going to tell you why this corner is so very significant, and I'm going to get out of your way.
Okay, everyone. Hi, how are you doing? Good to hear. Okay. So I'm going to start off with a court case. On December 19th, 1949, the court rules that racial zoning laws are unconstitutional. And so this suit is filed by Mary Means Monk, a black school teacher, and she's represented by Arthur Davis Shores, who you just heard about.
Louder.
So he is a prominent black civil rights attorney and NAACP appointment. So Mary Means Monk's house on Center Street, she lived here, and so her house was destroyed twice, but she rebuilt both times. And essentially, the reason that this suit was filed was because of the unjust racial zoning laws. And so Center Street was considered the color line of Birmingham. The west side was mostly white, and the east side was considered to be transitioning. So despite opposition, strong opposition, from white families and the government through the use of police force, up-and-coming black professionals would move themselves and their families to the west side of Center Street. And the KKK would retaliate in opposition to this through many forms of violence, including bombings, but they would also burn down the doors of these houses. They would they would fire through the windows of the cathedral windows of their houses, and they would obviously, they'd speed up the hill and decommission police cars, throwing dynamite. Another thing to mention is that with police involvement, Bull Connor was the police commissioner at the time, and every time that black people moved into a previously white neighborhood, he would announce that there would be bloodshed. He was also responsible for commissioning the violence against the children during the Children's March that occurred in Kelly Ingram Park. And all of this violence gave Center Street a new name, Dynamite Hill. Many of the 40 to 50 plus unsolved bombings that occurred during the 40s to 60s happened here. And the city of Birmingham receives a new name, not the Magic City or Pittsburgh of the South, but Birmingham. So Mary Means Monk obviously lived here, and so there were many prominent civil rights figures that lived on both sides of Center Street, actually. But behind me is the house of Angela Davis. So she's a world-renowned author, politician, activist, and scholar. So one of her most prominent books out of 5 that she's written is Women, Race, and Class. I strongly encourage that you guys read it if you have time, and if you have, that's awesome. So she grew up in this house on Center Street, and she recalls that some of her earliest memories are of these explosions and frequent bombings. Her mother was involved in the NAACP, and her father was involved in attempting to stop the violence that was occurring on Center Street. She herself was involved in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the Black Panthers. So across from her house over here is the home of J.E. Moncrief, Ku Klux Klansman.
J.E. Moncrief.
J.E. Moncrief. He was a Ku Klux Klansman, and he was really not secretive about his involvement in the KKK. He would often boast at meetings about bombings and violence that he contributed to. He was also an associate of Bob Chambliss. He was known as Dynamite Bob, as he was responsible for many of the bombings that occurred here. So Angela actually knew about all this, and her outrage spurred her to actually, oftentimes she would go over, throw rocks through the windows of his house and uproot bushes, and that was her way of expressing her rage against them. She also, on a side note, ran for vice president in 1980 and 1984 unsuccessfully on the Communist Party ticket, and she knew 2 of the girls whose lives were taken in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. She has many views on many political issues because of her role in the civil rights movement, particularly on the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. She wants it to be clear that the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing was not just an extraordinary event that occurred in an otherwise peaceful town. Terrorism was a constant during this time. And that concludes my long tour. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Over the hill, you're going to have 2 more stops on your left and your right hand side, just over that bridge. So Pat told me to tell you, don't go flying down the hill, because as soon as you get over the hill, you're going to see some guys, and y'all stop right there.
There's the church.
The church is on the left, and the house on the right.